Hola clase, today we're going to talk about para y por. Para is used for many different things. The first use of para is to express a destination. And when we say a destination, we are talking about a final destination. That would be the place that you are going to end up. So on your sheets, you have all of the notes that are printed already on the slides, but you're going to write the things that I handwrite in. So final destination, that tells us the last place that you are going to end up. When you use para, we understand that it has that meaning. Para can also be used to express a purpose, goal, or objective. This can be a person or a thing. So when we say la carta es para ti, we are talking about somebody who is the recipient of something. So anytime you receive something from someone, you use para to express that. We also use para to talk about working for someone. For instance, I might say, mi papá trabaja para Miller Brewing, or mi mamá trabaja para North American Salt Company. Okay, so para is also used to express a thing or an event. So we're talking about things or events that will happen in the future. So, for example, in the first example thing, we have estudiamos para el examen. So we study for the test. The test is the event in the future that we are studying for. La mesa es para el comedor. We talk about the table being for the dining room. This is where that thing belongs. So when we want to express that something belongs in a certain place, we use para for that. You wouldn't, for instance, park your car in the kitchen and put your plates away in the garage, so everything has its place. We're saying this table is specifically made for the dining room. Compro los boletos para el concierto. This is an event. Okay, so it tells us something is coming up. I bought them for the concert. Para is also used to express a point in time. Another way to think of this would be to say that para is used for giving deadlines. So we have tengo que terminar el trabajo para el martes. The homework must be done by Tuesday. Tuesday is the deadline. When we use para, that's what that tells us. Para is also used to express an opinion or a point of view. So if you are going to grace someone with your opinion, you would use para to do that. We would say, para mí, Madrid es una ciudad fantástica. By prefacing it with this para mí, we let everybody know that we are giving our opinion. Para is also used to reflect a point of reference or a comparison. So when something is different than what we expect, we use para to show that. In the examples, it shows us, para su edad, este chico es muy alto. For his age, that kid's tall. Para una norteamericana, usted habla español muy bien. For somebody from the United States, you speak Spanish really well. So that shows us that it's different than what we expected. We use para followed by an infinitive to mean in order to. So in English, if you can work in order to into your sentence, that's how you know that you need to use para. The example says, I take the bus in order to go to the museum. There's another use of por where we use por with an infinitive and a different phrase fits into the sentence. So if you say the sentence in English and in order to make sense, then you have to use para in order to connect up your sentence. We use por, on the other hand, to express approximate time or duration. So the first example shows us time. And when I say time, I mean a period of time. I'm talking about for 3 weeks, for 4 months. Okay, so we said that por expresses a period of time. So if we look at the example, it says, Vamos a México por un año. For a year, I went to Mexico. The next one talks about por la mañana, por la tarde, and por la noche. These are phrases. They always use por. They never use para. So if you want to say in the morning, in the evening, or in the afternoon, you must use one of these phrases, por la mañana, por la tarde, por la noche. This next one talks about per. How much money do you earn per week? How many miles do you drive per hour when you're driving your car, etc. Por also explains how we get there. So it tells us the how of how we get there. So for example, we're talking about transportation. We get there por avión. Maybe we go by plane, or por tren, or por barco. We also use por to talk about means of communication. So we can send a message por email, we can send it por fax, we can send it por mensaje de texto. So anytime we talk about how something gets to where it's going, whether it be by boat, by plane, by train, or whether we're talking about by phone, by email, etc., we use por to tell about that. We use por to talk about movement in an area. So for instance, it says, muchos peatones pasan por la calle Colón, that they walk along calle Colón. They go by calle Colón. That's the way that they get there. It talks about how you would enter someplace, how you would make your entrance. So for instance, in the example it says, ¿Quién entró por la ventana? Who came in through the window? We also talk about it being a stop along the way. We use para to talk about our final destination, but if we're going to stop along the way at the grocery store, at the bank, at the post office, we use por to talk about that. So we say, podemos ir a Madrid por Toledo, okay, and we use por to express that. We also use por to talk about movement in an area. So when I explain this, I say that there are two types of people. One type of person who goes into the mall and knows exactly where they're going and goes to that store, buys the thing, leaves the store, walks out of the mall, heads to their car and leaves. That's my husband. I am a person who likes to walk por el centro comercial. I like to go into one entrance no matter where I'm going. I like to look around. I might find 15 different stores to walk in. I am walking por el centro comercial. I am literally wandering around. That's what the last one talks about. Being in an area, just sort of moving around. So we think about doing that in a city, in a museum, anywhere where you can spend time and just sort of walk around. We use por in order to talk about exchange. So when we use por, the big key is money. We say, quiero vender mi cámara por $100. For $100. Whenever we're talking money, we always use por. We also use por to talk about trading things. So if we are going to trade la camisa roja por la camisa azul, we would use por to show that as well, that it's an equal trade, that whatever you're trading is equal to whatever money or whatever else you're trading it for. We use por to talk about cause, motivation, or benefit. So anytime we thank anyone, we use por. Por is for thanks. We say, muchas gracias por tu invitación. Ay, profe, muchas gracias por la tarea. That type of deal. We talk about somebody being concerned about you because of your health, por tu salud. So the doctor is worrying about your health. The next one talks about a substitute. So just like profe can't be in class, the substitute comes in and takes care of the class for her. In this example, it says, la abogada habla por sus clientes. The lawyer talks for their clients on their behalf. So someone who is there to take over and to work in place of the other person. And the next one says, we do everything possible for our friends, for the sake of our friends. All right, kind of an emotional statement. The next one we use por, and this one's always been kind of a weird one to me, but definitely in the case of natural disasters. If a natural disaster pops up, anything that happens outside, we're definitely using por to talk about that. It says, Lisbon was destroyed by an earthquake. Anytime somebody is the author of or the creator of something, we use por to talk about that. So we say this building was constructed by a Mexican architect, and we use por to show that. We might say something like Hamlet was written by Shakespeare, and we would use por to show that idea as well. Por is used in expressions. When you're doing your work, you'll be doing something and you'll have no idea why certain things are the way they are. It's usually because it's a phrase. Por favor is a phrase. Por supuesto is a phrase. It means of course. Por favor, of course, means please. We also use por to say por todas partes. You were looking all over the place for something. You looked all over in every place. Por todas partes. So por just has expressions. So if there's something and you can't really figure out why it would be para, it's probably por, and it's probably one of these phrases. Por lo menos, at least. We also use por followed by an infinitive. An infinitive is a verb that's going to end in AR, ER, or IR. And when we use it followed by an infinitive, it translates to because of. So if you remember, para meant in order to, and por means because of. Then you have a good way to figure that out. If it's followed by an infinitive, something that ends in AR, ER, or IR, it's going to fit into either one of these meanings. One of these is going to make sense in English, and that's the one you need to pick. When you do your homework tonight, I want you to make sure that you include por para and a reason. So be sure that you look up any words that you don't know and that you include your reason on the line along with your por and para. I will not consider your work complete without the reason. Hope you have a good night. Thanks.